When someone you love is facing cancer, you want to do more than send a card or flowers that will wilt in a week. You want to actually help. That's where the Balm Box comes in. Our care packages are built from research with over 500 cancer patients and caregivers, packed with items people actually use during treatment. Think soothing, practical, thank goodness I have this kind of relief. For you, it's not just a gift, it's a way to show up in a moment where words fall short. For them, it's comfort, calm, and a reminder they're not alone. From chemo-friendly boxes to mastectomy recovery kits, even options for men, we've made it simple to give something that's elegant, premium, and genuinely useful. And yes, domestic shipping's always free on orders over $50, because making someone feel cared for shouldn't be complicated. So skip the empty get well soon. Send real help, real comfort, and maybe even a laugh. Visit thebalmbox.com. That's TheBalmBox.com. Balm, like healing and care. The Balm Box, because cancer patients don't need bouquets and brownies. They need balm.
Hey, welcome back to Down in Alabama, folks. We're coming at you with a weekend bonus episode. I'm here with a couple of our reporters who cover the state capitol, who you've heard from previously multiple times, each one of them. Mike Kaysen, thanks for coming back to the show.
Thanks for having me, Ike.
And John Sharp, we're glad to have you here.
Glad to be here, Ike. How you doing?
All right. Now, y'all did a piece together, and the whole state has watched the state GOP apparently have a little turmoil going on behind the scenes. Not all of it behind the scenes. And I just kind of wanted to have y'all on and talk a little bit about what we know, about where they are, about how much of this stuff is bubbling up right now, and why that may be the case. What revealed initially some level of conflict, at least revealed publicly, was a short audio clip that was leaked out of a Republican caucus meeting, I believe. Mike, you did that initial story. Can you tell us about that leak and the immediate reaction to it?
Sure, and that was really unusual. The House Republican caucus is about 75 people, and their meetings are closed. And because what we generally know when they meet, or sometimes know when they meet, and me and other reporters have gone to where they're meeting, but the doors are closed, and when they come out, they generally won't say much about what they may say a little bit in general, but they are very careful about keeping what goes on in there confidential, and so that was really surprising, and that's why it was a news story.
The leak was of none other than the House Speaker. What was it that he said? We can bleep you out, or
well, I think it was. I don't remember the sentence that led up to it, but the key line was, "I could give about the Republican Party," and I think the context was he was more concerned about what happened within the caucus, and he issued a statement saying that his purpose was to say that he was more interested in those guys and women getting reelected than anything going on with the Republican Party, which is about to elect a new chairman.
Now
I don't know if that was the full context, because there may have been other. I don't know if that was the full context or not.
Right. I think you guys probably join me in being, sort of government in the sunshine people as news guys. I think they ought to be hot mic'd all the time. But John, this is a serious breach of trust, isn't it? Does it change the way this could change the way lawmakers, I guess, approach these sort of meetings, couldn't it?
Yeah, that's correct. And I think that was cited in our story as well, that, this is a real concern to have a recording of a conversation in a caucus meeting, because these caucus meetings are typically freewheeling, at least we're not invited to them. The press is not. So that gives the opportunity for elected officials to sit amongst members of their party to help formulate strategy, policy priorities, and stuff along those lines in these closed door settings. But the minute the recorder comes out and it's sent to whomever in the media, then that can provide a chilling atmosphere for conversation. In Alabama, Republicans have had a long time supermajority now in the legislature. And we are heading into a primary season. So you got to understand some of that context, the political realities that are at play here. And it's a very sensitive period of time right now. I know that the legislature back in January described this session as we're going to go in, approve the budgets, and get out. I've been in the media for a while, so has Mike. I kind of scratch your head over when it's, it's going to be easy and go home. We were all a little skeptical on that. And it's kind of proven to be, as we've seen in the last month, especially on issues like energy policy, for instance. It's become a little bit more challenging than that. But yeah, that's, the Republican infighting is natural in a time, when you're leading into a primary. We're only a few months away. And the primary is often viewed as tantamount to the outcome of the overall election. General elections are going to be a challenge for the Democrats again in this state. That typically happens. It's no secret. But, so there's a lot of, there's going to be a lot of political maneuvering behind the scenes and as well in public leading up to that primary. And we saw that, and we're seeing that right now.
Y'all have had stories that have shown us that, going back to that specific leak that Tupperville has supported Ledbetter and some other folks have. One person who was running for GOP chair, Stan Cook, actually came out and said Ledbetter needs to be expelled. And then days later, he's withdrawn his candidacy. Mike, is that a coincidence?
I don't know. I mean, he said it was because of a healthcare crisis in his family, and I would take him at his word. I don't know. I don't.
Right.
Like I said, I would just take him at his word. I would have thought he would have been a long shot to win the chairmanship. Just because you've got the existing the acting chair, Joan Reynolds, who who's been a party leader for a good while now, and then you've got Scott Stadthagen, who is the leader in the House. So they're more high profile, and so I would have thought that Stan Cook's chances were not great, but
right.
I don't know for sure.
Right, and John Merrill, former Secretary of State's running for the chairmanship as well. And if you said that him already, I'm sorry, I missed a little part.
I didn't mention John Merrill, but yeah, he's a formidable candidate also.
The leak isn't. I went back to that because I wanted to address the Cook thing, but it's not the only sign of strain, John. What else has been coming down the pike?
Well, the whole issue of eligibility to be on the ballot, that's been a big issue. This is not a new issue to this year, but it's one that's causing, once again, frustrations within the party. There was a gentleman running in one of the Alabama state Senate districts, Jesse Battles. I believe he's running in Senate. He was running in Senate District 10. And that looked to be shaping up to be a hotly contested Republican Party primary. You have the incumbent running there, Senator Andrew Jones, I believe, and then his opponent, Amy Minton, who sits on the Public Service Library Board of Directors. And so, that's shaping up to be again, a hotly contested primary. But Mr. Battles was removed from the ballot. He wasn't really given a reason why. According to him, he said that there wasn't an explanation. There's a viewpoint that apparently he in the past had supported a Democratic candidate. I don't know, the facts behind that, but it's caused frustration from his standpoint. And that's kind of gotten, it's a little bit more of a discussion. I did talk to former Secretary of State John Merrill, who is running for Alabama Republican Party chair, and he had indicated that there needs to be a little bit more transparency in this process. The steering committee makes that ultimate decision, but there's a lot of questions on why they're doing, why this person's not eligible to be on the ballot, but these other candidates who had their eligibility challenged are. And again, it's a very powerful group when you're talking about a state that's essentially a one-party state right now. You have a supermajority in the legislature, and all constitutional office holders are Republican. That becomes a very powerful group to determine who can and cannot stay on the ballot. So, yeah, that's become an issue.
Also, that group, if I'm remembering correctly, when they voted on whether or not to go forward on, I guess, an investigation or to hold a hearing on Tuberville or Wall and their qualifications to run because of their residency statuses, those weren't unanimous. So there might be an image where all Republicans are just parting like the Red Sea for Tuberville and some of these top names, but that shows there's some pushback and some people in the party who are concerned going forward.
Well, I think that was unanimous on Tuberville. Now, on
Okay.
John Wall, it was very split. It was from we understand, a 10-9 decision. That's about as split as you can get. I mean, and I think it was actually Miss Reynolds who came in and made that tie-breaking vote. So, yeah, that's
Okay.
very, very interesting issue there. And of course, John Wall's running for lieutenant governor, a very hotly contested race again. You got some well-known names running in that election, including Secretary of State Wes Allen, and so that yeah, it's a
Mm.
very powerful group to make a decision down to one vote whether or not somebody that has Donald Trump's endorsement can stay on the ballot. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
certainly
really.
that's a big topic of discussion, I think, for the executive committee. They'll be meeting, I believe, on March 9th, Mike, in Hoover,
Yeah,
to
March 7th, I think it is.
March
Next
7th,
next
yeah,
Saturday, a
next
week from tomorrow.
Saturday.
And that's a group of about 400 plus members, and they generally have some interesting resolutions they propose and vote on. And but the big thing next Saturday will be the election of the chairman. And they're also, and maybe you were going to bring this up, they're also talking about asking the legislature to pass a bill to close the primaries.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. That was that story you did yesterday, I think. Correct me on the. I'm so glad, John. By the way, thanks. The Red Sea did part for Tuberville. I was wrong about that, but uh, Alabama is one of only a few states that still have open primaries, and the Republicans want to close them, or kind of not enough to have ever gotten it done before, though.
That's right. They've talked about this at least a couple of times in the last 15 years. And so we'll see where it goes this year. It sounds like they may at least have a bill, uh, but it hadn't been introduced yet that I've seen. But yeah, I think there's 8 states.
Mhm.
There's a lot of different ways. I was just looking on the National Conference of State Legislature. There's 4 or 5 different ways states handle primaries, and Alabama is one of 8 states that's considered an open primary state. Florida, I
Right.
think Florida is a closed primary state, and they may be one of the
It
most
is.
closed. But and when you do that, you have the question of what about the voters who are independent, and do you want them to
Mhm.
participate in your primary? And uh, so a lot to consider if they're going to take that step.
Mhm. John, are you like me and you personally like open primaries just because, as a reporter, you can vote in it without having to put a party down on your voter card?
Well, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, in election season, how the legislature addresses this. We've already seen backlash, public backlash over really a surprising amount of public backlash towards that Public Service Commission bill um, that
Hmm.
would have taken the three-member commissioners from appointed or from elected commissioners to appointed. The public didn't like lawmakers even considering a tinkering of how they determine who represents them. So this will be interesting to see if they're okay. I guess you could say if there's no backlash on how we determine. I mean, would the open primary become closed this year? I don't. A lot of questions to ask and
Hmm.
consider in regards to this. And back to the Tuberville residency question, even though it was unanimous by the steering committee, that doesn't mean that that issue is going to go away in the campaign. We've already seen from his primary opponents, Ken McFeeters is really raising that and hitting that residency question hard. There's one way, I guess, you can prove and put this all to bed is that the senator would release state income taxes, which he would pay if he was a resident of Alabama versus one in Florida, which does not have a state income tax. So that's the big issue right there. He's refused to do so. There are definitely some questions about property tax questions and exemptions, homestead exemptions, and that on property owns in Florida versus property owns in Auburn. I think he's cleared those issues up for the most part, but there are those lingering questions whether or not the senator meets a more stringent residency requirement in the state of Alabama versus one in which he had to meet to run for the Senate in Alabama.
Yeah, if you are a resident of Alabama, and I'm not saying he didn't, but he hasn't, like you say, he hasn't shown his tax records. If you're a resident here and have not paid state income taxes, I'll bet the revenue department would be interested in that sort of thing. So I know I've had to pay mine along the way. Uh, you know, I know that this part gets a little speculative, I think, but so either one of y'all can say what you want to on this. But are we already seeing Tuberville's presence in state politics having some sort of effect because he brings that national the national politics in a little bit more, and with back and he's so close to the president. Uh, Can we even measure that at this point?
Yeah, I think we're seeing some impact that they know he's going to be the next governor, or that's the expectation. Um, because you had Speaker Ledbetter yesterday, uh, House Speaker Ledbetter come out in favor of at least considering the closed primaries. The same
Mhm.
day, Senator Tuberville said he would support that. One bill that just passed the legislature is passed both houses now. Didn't It got very little attention, but um, this Alabama has an Office of Minority Affairs that
Mhm.
focuses on things like promoting opportunities for minorities, and they don't get much attention. But you had to wonder if they were going to be in the crosshairs of the anti-DEI movement of the
Uh,
Trump administration and the Republican legislature, and they quietly passed a bill yesterday to change the name to the Office of Civic Engagement, and
mm.
nobody said that was the reason, but I wonder if there was concerns that Governor Tuberville was going to come in and close that office, or
Okay.
that's
So
pure speculation on my
right,
part.
right, right.
But
Because that's the question is, are you
yeah,
changing the name because that group is gonna go do something differently, or because you kind of want it to stay under the radar and not be cut?
and the bill changes nothing but the name; it doesn't change their mission. So
Okay.
why do that? I don't know.
Okay. Interesting. I mean, yeah, it's speculative, but it is. I could see that the name could throw a red flag if you're out hunting for DEI things to go after.
Ike, one thing to keep in mind with, as potentially with a Governor Tuberville is certainly we're going to see a change both in personality and maybe approach
Mhm.
to governing, as we've seen with Governor Kay Ivey during her long tenure in office. Um, it's been argued a lot in the last year about increased authority and power in the president's office, and
Mhm.
our Congress allowing that essentially. Um, will we see some of that in Alabama? I don't know. The legislature holds a pretty powerful oversight on policy, and how would a Governor Tuberville approach the legislature differently than Governor Ivey has. I think that's something to keep an eye on. His approach so far. It's been he's a senator. That's what he does right now. That's his job. So, but his presence at the state house when he arrives is duly noted. I mean, he was at a caucus meeting. There's been pictures of him patting Ledbetter on the back, smiling together. Not too long after that microphone that recording came out, and so that's certainly and there was some social media activity involving the lieutenant governor Will Ainsworth. Also applauding the work that Speaker Ledbetter's done. It's indicates to me that that was an attempt to make the speaker certainly look good in the eyes of the public after a recording came out saying that I don't give a shit about the Republican Party. Even though that there's more context to that statement, we live in an era of the fast posts, the social media clips, and the quick comments, and so the people, the public might take that certainly the wrong way. So, certainly having Senator Tuberville in the state house and those pictures, I think, were pretty powerful of him and the speaker together, smiling and I think that was a good moment for Speaker Ledbetter.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's definitely worth keeping an eye on how Tuberville, should he become governor, approaches the executive office. He's clearly been pretty deferential to the executive on the national level, saying, trust Trump, that sort of thing. And not sure the state legislature will go for all that, but we'll find out, I guess. Anything else shaken in Montgomery or anywhere else for either of y'all?
On that point about Tuberville and the legislature, it's worth noting that the legislature is very powerful in Alabama because they can override the governor's veto with a simple majority vote. So
good point.
If they do, if they do go at odds with Tuberville on something, they have a lot of power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great point. Guys, I really appreciate y'all taking the time to do this, and so we can have a weekend show.
All right, Ike, thanks.
Appreciate your interest.
No, always. You got something, give me a holler. We'll get you on here and talk about it. And thanks everybody out there for listening to us. We'll be back bright and early Monday morning. Until then, y'all come by and see what the guys are working on the internet at al.com.